you ready?
This is what happens when we record early and disturb the natural balance, the natural order. Everything gets weird.
We're not even going to get to hear Craftsdwarf's favorite character. I'm actually upset
I was
about
just thinking about that. I was literally thinking about that. I'm going to mention that. I was going to say, I hope he still shows up.
If he does, I'm going to pog out of my fucking mind.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Weeb Club podcast. This is Craftsdwarf here with Nun and Vindy Bondo. How are you? Hello. Hi.
I'm good. Hi.
I was addressing them. Excuse me.
Seconds. Don't talk to me.
This is fucking chaos.
How's it going, Crafts?
Going good.
Yeah. Excited to leave all this in?
Yes. In case, I don't know when I'm leaving in and whatnot, but Vindy had to go. He has a friend coming over, so he has to, invite them into the house so that he's not standing outside for, 5 hours while we record a fucking podcast. We can vaguely hear him in the background.
Yeah?
So this time, I'm not the only one with the guest appearance.
Well, I think Motorcycle Guy feels a stronger bond toward you than
He's
Vindy's
the
friend to
Sasuke
him.
to my Naruto.
Nice long episode
Hey, Vindy,
because of
just
this.
ask him if he can come in and join. What is this episode?
Okay, what's going on?
I was making a joke about how you can ask him if he wants to be a guest star on the podcast right now.
Yeah.
Who, my friend?
Yeah.
He just went to a bar.
Oh, sad.
He's like, I'll just go to a bar. I'll have a couple beers. Text me when you're done.
Okay.
Because we're
Well,
going to go to dinner, so.
okay, comments.
Y'all were talking about that the whole time?
No, we were just talking. Yeah, we
No.
thought it was funny.
We were just talking
We
and
haven't
we're
talked
gonna
about
leave.
comments. We were just talking.
Yeah.
The episode started.
Okay.
We're not restarting it.
No, I know. I just assumed y'all were already on
No.
the comments. Okay. Naruto episode first, right?
Yes.
By the way, even if you don't want to watch Naruto along with us, if you have read the series before and are listening to this, go watch the first episode of the Naruto
Speaking
podcast.
as someone who literally hasn't watched part 1 Naruto since it was on television, I left a comment. I legitimately think it's great discussion. Some of the actual best part 1 focused discussion I've seen. Even counting my videos, which they're on the whole series, not just part 1. But this is you guys talked about 5 episodes and it was still really good. I can understand why you guys were excited to do it and hyped up hyping it up, right? And it made me excited to want to do I keep thinking about doing the One Piece one. I don't want it which is I've said this privately, but it's yes, now Nun and I might eventually do one on One Piece where we do the same thing, where we just watch through the whole thing slowly and do episodes on it. And I'm not gonna hey Nun, we should do this right now, because that's a lot. One Piece is literally almost at 1,000 episodes right now, so it's fucking ridiculous. And you're already doing Naruto, but it's I liked it, and now I'm shit, I want to do something like this, but I'll wait. So
Me and the mysterious 4th member of the Weeb Club also might do Bleach.
Uh-oh.
So,
I might join in on that, but I won't watch Naruto.
Craftsdwarf,
I
you
refuse.
can do it with me because somebody told me today, let my heart down, ruin my entire reason for existing. You know what he told me when I asked him? I asked him a very simple question. I said, will we be watching Rock Lee and his ninja pals? And he said no.
I'll watch it with you, Vindy.
Let's
I'm already
go!
going to watch it myself, but I don't want to watch it for the podcast.
We'll
No,
do a
I want to
Weeb
watch
Club
Rock
backlog
Lee and
on
his
it.
ninja pals.
We'll do a Weeb Club backlog on it.
Let's fucking go! Okay, but comments on the Naruto podcast. Let me look. I know there were some. There's one person who said they have an excuse to rewatch Naruto again?
Yep, Ninetales.
Yep. Oh, I didn't even realize their name was Ninetales. All right.
Right?
Well,
Like,
they've created a playlist on their channel called Understanding Naruto. It's got MathWiz's Naruto videos, Craftsdwarf's Naruto videos. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, very excited about doing more. Let me see.
oh, it's got
Do you
some
have any
Nunmanji
on it, Nun?
videos on there too.
I didn't really have much I wanted to bring up. People seem to enjoy it. I guess DBZ Maki didn't notice the Konohamaru thing, which, I didn't notice until I started watching the anime, like watching Naruto. So
Yeah, I have a ridiculous amount of notes for Land of Waves.
Because Land of Waves is, look, I said this more to what when he was tweeting about it, but like I think Land of Waves is the best like starting shonen arc I've read. Like,
it's really good.
yeah.
It does a lot of things really well. Let me see. I want to see. Yeah, I don't think there's that many comments. I mean, people seem to enjoy it, and I hope you guys, the next episode should be out sooner rather than later.
Mm-hmm.
So, just keep your eyes peeled for it.
But yeah, I don't have any specific comments to respond to either, unless we move on to the weekly.
Yes. Okay. Does anyone have any?
Terrifying. Water says that the people at his work tell him not to turn off the podcast, which implies that they actually are fine with listening to the Weeb Club. Presumably like random, relatively normal people. So I don't know what to make of that.
I hope that none of them, or a very small number of them, actually watch anime, or like on some level, like when we get really technical about like some of like like when we start talking about like a show, right? They just don't know what the fuck we're talking about. They're like, they just enjoy it anyways. So, I mean, if y'all enjoyed it enough to tell us not to turn it off, thank you guys for the. I don't know, but that sure is something else. Melvin commented neat. My hero. He doesn't comment on every episode, but every time Melvin comments, I pog. For sure. Nunmanji, do you have any?
not really. Oh wait, actually, I guess Steven says, I hate how the Weeb Club gets me to waste at least an hour of my life so I can respect even trash anime because I have no retort to their analysis and criticisms. Sounds a little cringe how he worded it, but, it's clear that
there aren't any trash anime, only trash people.
No. Look, Craftsdwarf, it's not anime isn't trash, but I am, okay? It's anime is trash, and so am I, please.
No, I was saying I disagree with that.
No, I know. I was making a joke about... Okay.
Look, at least he's one of those cringe people who can still, appreciate being proven wrong and accepting that.
That's true, yeah. But again, it's the wording that I agree, I wasn't a fan of it.
Let me see. 27 Dangel, I don't fucking know. Said that they also write exclusively in cursive. So my sister's not the only one, which is interesting. I think there's one more, but I don't remember. Offline left a big comment about like with him in comics and like context and how he thinks it can help, but it's not super important. I thought that was an interesting read, and I do have something to say on the topic of the last episode, actually.
Okay,
which
real
is
quick,
after
I was going to respond, or actually, you go ahead before you. Yeah.
After the last weekly, we watched Thor Ragnarok for the MCU, and then I might or might not, or definitely did start reading a Thor run.
Which one?
The one that everyone was saying was the best.
Okay.
I don't remember.
I think I know the one. Yeah, but I forget what it's called. Too.
Yeah, I don't
have
remember.
To check my server. Well, I was going to respond to the comment. Lucas Rauer, who's
was it
just
Walt
being...
Simmons?
No. Yes, it was the yeah.
Apparently, all I remember about it is, aside from just being super important to Thor, it's the run that introduces Malekith, and he's actually like really good in the comic run, which is a shame that the
I was not
Malekith was like not.
Yeah,
good.
I mean, I'd heard it. I was not ready for Thor to just be like a normal ass dude with a cane who then turns into Thor. That was not what I was not mentally prepared for that.
Yes, I was aware of that, right? Because I think they referenced the name in the first Thor movie. I think it was Jane's X, and then even in Thor Ragnarok, he had the umbrella, which was his hammer, also, which was also a kind of comic book reference. So, yeah. But anyway, I want to talk about the Lucas comment because it's kind of exactly what we were arguing against in the video, because he's basically just saying if he said he just likes manga better, that's fine, but he's like arguing the superiority, which I think is like, he's literally just saying the exact same thing we were like saying, just fucking read comics. You don't want to have to fucking freak out. And I just think, I don't know, I just don't like that kind of elitism of just trying to proclaim superiority. Like, I mostly consume anime and manga, but I'm not sitting here like saying, oh yes, anime better than cartoons. Or, right, like, I just don't watch it. And I'm going to be bitching about a cartoon later in the podcast, but
Let's
it's not
go!
like, but it's not because it's all cartoons are bad or something. It's just like, I just didn't happen to like this one. That's also kind of like, and I respect it in ways, but I'll talk about it later. So I don't know. I just don't like, I don't like tiering of media and stuff outside of just personal preferences, because yeah, I have my personal preferences, of course, but I'm not just going to say things are inherently better or worse than another. Like, comics, I thought a big point of what we talked about the episode is that comics can do a lot of things that manga can't because of the way they are, and that's really cool. So I don't know, it just bothered me.
Yes, haha, yes.
Ready to move on to the Reddit?
Yeah.
There was one good thing on the Reddit, because
I didn't know that there was a thing where Deadpool and All Might met.
It's not fully translated. Yeah, it's a whole Deadpool samurai manga that's like 2 volumes long, and only like half of it's translated. I looked it up. And,
was it like through Jump, so it has Jump characters in it, or?
Yeah, no, it was on Jump Plus apparently. So
see, that's really weird.
Same publishing platform as the Ruby manga. Or one of
how
them.
Did that? Yeah, how did Viz not translate? That would be a
what the fuck?
Maybe like people would pog out to see Deadpool and All Might have sex.
It might be a distribution rights thing, because they just can't freely distribute a Marvel character series on their platform without working with Marvel, right? So it's only a fan translation for now.
Oh, okay. So fans have translated all of it, right?
Only like 9 chapters out of like 2 volumes or so. Oh. So it's like half translated, basically. I looked it up. I'll try to remember to let you guys know when it is fully translated. But because if it was fully translated, I would have like at least put it on my to read list, because it's only 2 volumes. But it's not. So
if it had been fully translated, I'd probably be talking about that for the weekly roundup. Honestly,
yeah, that would have been cool.
Yeah. All right. I didn't watch this video.
I
watched a little bit of it and skimmed through it. It was funny. I don't think it'd be funny if I watched the entire thing, but watching a little bit. And
what's the point of the video? Explain it to me.
It just plays Craft's tirade thing with sinister music in black and white. It's kind of funny.
Oh, okay.
I fucking made a whole video series on it, and I'm still never going to live it down, am I?
Honestly, I think the reason it's a meme now is more so because you hate it. As opposed to like anything it did, right?
Right. Well, aside from being like my most popular video series, and also like, you know, further fueling the fire of shitty discourse about Fairy Tail and Mashima's works as a whole. But anyway, sorry, I'm mad.
Rave's still mid.
I mean, I gave it a 4, but
yeah, you can't even be mad at me for speaking truths.
But you're like in the beginning part where it
no, I've seen fucking what's his name? Francis, what's his name?
Sighart.
That's it.
Just because his name ends in the other character's name, surname is Fernandez, doesn't mean you can just throw out fucking random like Spanish names.
I was just guessing shit. Yeah, I've seen Sighart, so I've seen the best part of it. Still mid.
So anyway, regarding the topic, I'm going to read it out loud, because this is our first patron-voted topic that we would have done last month if y'all motherfuckers had actually submitted a topic. But you did, and we did a poll. So Lime Phoenix suggests a topic. I'm just going to read it out loud. For a while now, I had been planning to read the Karo no Kyokai novels, but they weren't on any list, and I was kind of bothered by it, but I didn't care enough to check why. But then last week, when I went and added the Baishon and Tanteidan novels to my list, to my surprise, they also weren't there, so I decided to check what's up, and realized they didn't put them there because they were published in novel magazines rather than light novel magazines. So I thought that it was interesting, since Mal has both. So from that experience, think about what criteria does a piece of East Asian media need to classify to be on Mal AnyList, and if you think that's right or wrong. We will talk about that, but I also decided to just like broaden the topic to just like being about Mal and AnyList in general, or those kinds of websites, even depending on how much we talk. Because at least like my problem with the databasing is just having things that I can't like fully mark like with Jump manga, when they end, they kind of wait for the volumes to come out so they know exactly how many chapters are going to be there. Because Build King, for example, I would have marked as completed, but it had 5 new chapters come out with its second volume. So I'm not actually done with it now because there's 5 chapters of the manga I still haven't read that aren't translated. Build King being it was by Shimabukuro, the Toriko author, a canceled action series. And then another thing is, like, especially their manga in general, like, I have, like, 2 series that I've read, the Monster Hunter light novel and the, the Ruby manga, the second one, the 2-volume one, that aren't, or no, that one's not even in their database at all. There was another, it was Rock, Paper, Scissors or something, it was another short manga, like, so they have unapproved stuff, they have stuff that's not in their database, mostly on the manga side, because, like, it's my anime list. So they have mostly, their anime stuff is pretty well upkept, overall speaking, but they don't have enough interest in manga, so they don't have enough manga moderators to approve things. So even though there's way more manga and light novels and manhwa and all this shit, they can't keep up with it.
It's
I guess.
so bad.
I hate it.
That, apparently for months, the My Anime List app literally didn't work for manga properly. Like, it's fucking ridiculous, actually.
Well, just to put it into perspective, I'm really, like, nerdy about, like, I guess, or I don't know why, maybe it's because I already have them, but, like, the dates that I start and finish things, I tend to keep up with on my Mal, and so because I've got it, like, and sometimes I guesstimate, like, actually recently I found, I didn't know that they had the Nagi Mokoto's Worst Day Ever short story in their database, even though I read it, like, years ago, so I just kind of guesstimated a date when I feel like I might have read it, but, like... but then if I do remember the date, I'll write it down. So I read, Ultimate Rock, Paper, Scissors, I read on August 1st, 2019. So it's been in their database, like, I can send a link to it, but it's still not approved yet. So I can't actually add it to my list. But I still have it written down because, like, well, when I ever do approve it or disapprove it, like, well, now I can, like, add it to my list and remember when I read it. Because I'm a giant fucking nerd about this kind of shit, I guess. So, but I can't, and until they approve it finally. So, oh well. But that's just an example of, like, how long it's been since, like, I've read it versus, like, and I still can't put it on my list. So, and yeah, they definitely have some weird standards about it because I know, like, there he is.
Oh, he still showed up. He knows it in his heart when to show up.
So the reason that I got so pumped for it this time is because we're recording 2 hours earlier than... I don't know. Did y'all talk about this yet?
I feel like how we were talking kind of made it...
It was in the recording,
clear, but it wasn't like...
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. We're recording 2 hours earlier than normal, so we weren't sure. We had a conversation before the episode started that we weren't sure if we were going to hear our favorite Craftsdwarf character or not, but he showed up, so I'm super excited.
But yeah, I was going to say, like, I know there's some weird things about the database, like one in particular that they did for certain, it's like shows like Urusei Yatsura are listed as, like, being, like, 200 episodes long, even though they were aired in separate seasons, but the reason that they combine them is just because, like, if the title doesn't change, and if it was, like, before a certain point, because, like, relative to when My Anime started, they just combine the shows. So, like, Big O was 2 different seasons, but it's just one entry on My Anime List. But then you get the opposite issue if they change the titles. Like, I remember we talked about this, Nun, because there was a season of Pokemon, right? That's divided into a bunch of smaller shows. I think it was in 5th generation. And because for different arcs, they would the show title would change. So because the titles are different, that means by Mal's rules, they have to, make them separate entries, which, is kind of weird.
Even though they never took a break at all to even, like, justify that.
Right, and sometimes I do think that makes sense. Like, for example, Ojamajo Doremi did change its title every year, so even though it never took a break, there's still 4 distinct seasons on Mal, and I prefer that because each season does, like, has a new OP, it has a new title, it does something to change up the status quo, to speak, so it makes sense why, in some cases, even if, like, what were you gonna say?
Oh, I would say, well, and on the other side of the coin with that, I think that, like, and I know that I understand why they do it for when a show is airing, if it has a split core, but I think once it's all done, the fact that they still keep things like ReZero split into
Yes.
two halves, or even ones going like farther back, like Cinderella Girls is split into 2 seasons on Mal, and it should not be. It is 1 season of a show, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I
like-
think.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I think the ReZero one is, when you think about it, is especially egregious because it's not even like it comes back and it's like gone to the new OP. It comes back and is still using the OP, and like 3 episodes in, there's like a very clear moment where like.
Yeah, it's
like-
it doesn't show the OP, I don't think, because it doesn't show the OP at all, pretty much. It shows it like twice, and that's a new one in the second half. But it still uses the song for the OP, even if it's not showing the visuals during a moment, right?
Yeah,
is what you're
it
mentioning.
just-
yeah.
Yeah, it very clearly is still just the same season. And I understand that, maybe for seasonals, you want to make it like, oh, it split court, it's coming back. But you should just combine it when the show's done. And I think it's because it just leads to people not knowing what's actually going on when they talk about things.
I think they're going.
It really annoys this. Yeah, it annoyed me a lot with ReZero because like since they're 2 separate entries, but it's obviously still the same season, it's really hard for me to like, I guess, log them because it's like, altogether I would consider it a 10, but you might think I'm cringe for this, but I think the second half, like if I were to just separate the second half out, I think it has a few less good episodes compared to the first half. So if I were to like actually rate them separately, it'd be the first part would be a 10, whereas the second part's a 9. But like I shouldn't really have to do that,
right? Yeah.
And with Mal, with this, I fuck it. I'm just gonna give them both a 10 because I'm gonna to me, I'm considering them both the same. But it's like, I really don't like that Mal did that, especially because it's like, on my favorites, I put season 1 part 1 because I thought it had like more good episodes overall, even though the ending of season 2 part 2 is super good. But it's just like, I really don't like that. It made me have to do that. It's really annoying because it is the same thing.
Yeah, like as I understand, I think the rule with it is like if there's like 3 months between the airing of the one episode to another, then that is, they consider that like a different show. But I don't know how like strongly that's upkept, or like with hiatuses, for instance, or maybe it is just like something that they decided years ago before split core things were really common. Because I'd say that they definitely seem more like common nowadays. That it's like an artifact rule that maybe they should have like made it 4 months instead, because that would solve that problem, right? If they just considered ReZero ongoing for the 3 months. As the core was split, and then then they wouldn't have to consider it a separate season.
Right. And I think that's a good point, is that like, split cores are definitely becoming more common of a thing in the anime community, right? Or not in the anime community, the anime industry.
Production, yeah.
Yeah. Industry is a better word. I'm sorry, I used the wrong word. Like the industry, right? Like we're getting a lot more split cores. And it makes sense, and I think most people would agree that it can lead to better quality overall.
No, yeah,
right?
Because like it's basically like elongating the production over a longer period of time, which means the staff has more time to handle it, and they can actually like make a good show that will last for 20 plus episodes without the production falling apart, right?
Right,
because,
and it even gives...
I
would say it gives leeway in the production, right? Because instead of you having to like, because I think a split core almost like in my head, and obviously I don't know that much about what it's like for a studio, but mentally it seems like it would be better than having those 3 months before the show starts, because if you're having problems in production as the show's going, you get 3 months of not having to worry about releasing that next week to touch up things, right, or fix problems over that time period. And so
Right, and when the whole, industry is sort of locked into these 4 seasons, then it just makes sense to, like, spread a 2-season show out across 3 seasons, and that way, so it's still, like, following that same formula. Where in comparison, shows that go a year long, like, Precure doesn't start at the start of January with the winter season. It starts in, like, February or March, because that's when... just because it airs in its own like time slot next to Super Sentai and Kamen Rider, and they have their own productions that are going year round, right? So it's not quite the same. So Toei is doing its own thing basically, right? So it depends on the show, but yeah.
Right. Yeah, I think it's really. I think most people would agree split cores are good, but yeah, I think definitely for some of the, just like the, shit that happens, it definitely does feel like a thing where, Mal just like it feels like they don't actually care about like, and it's not their job to, right? Realistically, Mal is just a databasing site, but like it feels like they don't put thought into it as like what it actually is, which is art,
being like like I'm there's advertisements on there. It's a popular website. There's money in it, of course, but they're not willing to divert, because like if they wanted to change the rules, like that requires more moderation and more culling through, like, because I know they've made some changes. Like I remember when I first made my anime list, Dragon Ball Z was split into 2 shows. Because there was Dragon Ball Z, and then there was the US airing of Dragon Ball Z, which I believe had a different episode count. And I don't remember why, but like they counted it differently. And I don't remember if they ever had Digimon the movie on their website, but I do because I have thought about it, because Digimon the movie, as it was released in America, is actually 3 different Japanese films. The first 3 Digimon movies, like, edited together with it's a different movie. And yeah, it's kind of fucking weird. Like, there's a part in the 3rd movie where all the characters turn into children during the climax. In that movie, it's because the antagonist is a Digimon who their Digimon partner grew up, and well, they wanted them to be a kid again, and they're trying to find them, and they're aging down other Digimon partners, and that's like kind of the plot of the movie. In the American version of Digimon movie, that part still happens in the climax, but they don't give you the context because they change the whole rest of that part of the movie to link to the second part of the movie. So they just turn into kids randomly, and it's not explained because it's part of a different movie, basically. Like to the point, I would say Digimon the movie, as released in America, is just a different movie. Even like sort of like how Power Rangers is just a different show. It's not a dub of Super Sentai. It is an adaptation in a sense. Which is what I'd say the same of the Digimon movie, where it's no longer really just a dub at that point. Yeah, no, it is kind of interesting.
That honestly makes me way more interested in watching any amount of Digimon than anything anyone has ever told me. Watching those 3 movies and then the edited together movie and just seeing how the fuck they did that.
Right? No, because they definitely made some changes, but like I remember there's a part they add in the second part of the movie where they have they get an email from a character shows up in the 3rd part, and that character wasn't in the second movie, right? But so they added that part to connect it to the part in the movie that comes. It's weird, okay? Like, but it is kind of interesting from a production standpoint about how, like, because Digimon fans really like it, even though it's messy and it doesn't. And all 3 films were directed by Mamoru Hosoda, so they all fit stylistically. Because he has a very distinct style, and the way because it doesn't look like the TV series,
right?
But yeah, so like I don't remember if Mal ever had the Digimon movie in their database, but they like I said, they at least did for the American airing of Dragon Ball Z, but then they changed it. So like it's not impossible for them to change the database, but that creates like an issue with their general data keeping, because like okay, so like with ReZero, how do they combine entries? Like what if people have only read one or watched one and not the other? Like I guess they've done that before, because I remember back when B was talking about My Anime List, because she mentioned how some of her, I think it was in her video on like every show she'd ever dropped, which is probably long gone by now. It was on Digi After Dark. But she mentioned how like some of the episode counts were weird because like there were some 12 episode shows that had 24 episodes watched, because apparently Mal used to count the episodes by like if you rewatch a show, you could just put in more episodes. So
you used to be able to do that.
Right. So like with Gurren Lagann, for example, Vindy, like you said, you watched the episode. What was the episode 11. That was the episode 11. Thank you. You've watched it a bunch of times. So if you wanted to count that on Mal back in the day, you could count it individually. And where nowadays you can only count like have you rewatched the whole show or not. Like right. Even if you've seen like 70 episodes worth of Gurren Lagann, right? You still only rewatch a show like twice, right? So it's right. There's pros and minus to both ways. So like if they did a major change like that, then you'd have weird things like that going on, because there's plenty of people who made accounts and they're not going to go back and change their stuff for the stuff they've watched, right? So it's like there's no good way to do it in any regard. So I kind of understand why things stay the same way.
See, it kind of seems like they find it easier to just like add new entries for like everything, But at the same time, I feel like with something like ReZero, when the second part of the second season is in sight, I feel like it's not like unreasonable to just like only have that one entry and let it like sit for a little bit until the second part comes out, and not like have to have it like be completed with a completed episode count, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
like they could just put it down as like, I mean, I forget how many episodes season 2 part 2 is in full, but you know, they either put the full episode count and just wait for it to actually finish, or you know, they do that thing where if they don't know how many episodes something's going to be, it just doesn't have it yet. I don't think it'd be crazy to do that, and I feel like it wouldn't be more work than adding another entry.
No, yeah, I don't see especially I don't see a reason not to do that. Like, again, as long as the title of the show isn't changing, because that I do understand from a database standpoint. I mean, I guess you could search it like if the show has two different names, then you could just search one or the other, and they both show up or something. But I don't know. I guess I was gonna mention this earlier, but like what I understand in regards to like making rules for databases and having to draw these hard lines is when I had to do something myself when me and Matthew started the Nen show, because I had to like sit down and think like, okay, what series are we trying to discuss on this podcast, and what like guidelines do I set out, and what lines do I draw in regards to what we can and can't discuss. So like I decided that I didn't want to feel like we should be able to talk about like just shonen manga in general. So no like Gatsubato or just because like, you know, I want to stick to action series. But then it's like, okay, do I one of the reasons we can read combat sports is because I didn't want to draw a line between like martial arts manga and combat sports, because there's really not that big like what Kenichi has a tournament arc, so is it a combat sport? Or is it, but it take the martial arts title. Like, what about a delinquent manga or Rokudenashi Blues, which is like a boxing manga, but there's also a lot of delinquent stuff in there. Like, where do I draw? Like, you got to draw a line somewhere, right? And so, but you know, I've had people who say, "Oh, why couldn't you include this?" And it's like, well, that's outside of the arbitrary line that I drew, because I felt like I needed to draw a line somewhere, and that's where it ended up, right? So I can kind of understand where the mouse staff is coming from, where like, you know, they drew these lines, so they got to like uphold their rules, even though like, yeah, they could change things, but then like how many buckets of worms does that open or close, or, you know, I guess I'm saying I kind of get it, even if it causes problems.
Yeah, I mean, I understand how at this point they definitely probably feel like they're too sunk in with it to try to do anything. I just, you know, I don't like that that's what they do, but I have so many other problems with Mal and stuff. But I don't know how, like, is our conversation just going to be about Mal as a whole, or like,
I think
Mal's
I mean,
affecting the
I
community?
think once we're done with the general database stuff, we can move on to Mal as a whole. Because I don't know how much more I have to say. Except I was thinking about like Nun when you were talking about earlier about like rating split things. Because my issue is like with like specials and stuff, right? Like part of me like, should I just give it a lower rating because like, well, it's just like 1 or 2 episodes. I can't give it the same rating as the whole show, but also it's part of the show. So how?
See, I mean, I don't have like a consistent way of dealing with that, but like in some way I kind of like for a special I kind of like rate in turn like. It sounds weird to explain, but it's like I'd rate it in like within the standards of a special, I guess. Like it's hard to like explain what I mean by that.
Relative to other specials rather than other shows necessarily, right? Okay.
Like Chibits, which is like the Chobits like OVA or special thing. I gave it an 8, which, you know, is higher than the show, but I don't like it more than the show. I just think it was like a really good
as a special. It was
OVA.
Really good. Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, well, then even with rating stuff, right? Like, you know, the way that I try
rating
to do
stuff is another thing.
Well, no, I meant like rating, like, you know, because you know I was talking about like with different shows and stuff. The way I do it, at least if I give a rating like here on the Weeb Club or something, especially for like stuff that's a manga adaptation, right? Is like, you know, when you rate Dragon Ball or Naruto, right? You don't rate part 1 of Naruto and then part 2 of Naruto. You rate the whole manga of Naruto. So whenever, you know, I finish the Naruto anime and I give that a rating, I'll just give it both Naruto and Shippuden the rating. because it's all the one story, you know. Even maybe that's not the way a lot of other people would do it. Is like that's just the way that like makes the most sense to me because it is one story, right? And I don't think you should look at Shippuden as a different story than Naruto. Same way you shouldn't look at Dragon Ball Z as a different story from Dragon Ball.
No, yeah, I'm definitely like that in some cases. Like with Hidamari's sketch, I think I just have everything as a 10, even like a special, because it's like I literally had thoughts earlier. I was like, maybe I should rewatch Hidamari's sketch or watch it for a 5th time, and I'm like, wait, no, I have other things to watch. I can't do that. But then like for Chihayafuru, for example, I have seasons 1 and 3 as a 10, but I have season 2 as a 10 because I do have legitimate like issues with that season, even if it's really good. You know, I just think it's less good from a production side. It has more recap stuff going on. It's adapting less material over the same amount of episodes, so it's just kind of like less good than the other 2 seasons, even though it's still like Chihayafuru. So, you know, where Hidamari's sketch, like, I mean, it took me a while to rate season 1 as a 10, like, as in, like, I had to watch it 4 times before I finally decided that it was a 10, but it's, like, you know, yeah, it depends, is what I'm saying.
Right.
See, I feel like this is, like, part of, something I wanted to bring up was just, like, how Mal, contributes to the mentality of kind of treating different seasons of a show more separate from the whole than they are. Like, it's not all on Mal. Like, I'd still say people would still do this, but it is part of that culture of kind of getting used to doing that. Right.
Like, yeah, even if I do, you know, it's understandable that Mal kind of like leans into that, but yeah, people are you know, I mean, even if a series is the same thing, they're still going to say like pre-time skip One Piece is better than post time skip, right? Like, even though there's no, you know, database division. But that's just normal. So yeah, it understands why, you know, people are still gonna feel that way about seasons. But yeah, no, that makes sense as Mal, like, just sort of like, especially because yeah, you have to think about the seasons relative to each other and everything else you've watched, but individually if you're gonna rate them, right? So
see, yeah. I feel like, you know, I would say this thing definitely happens with like other like shows like cartoons and stuff, but I don't think it's like as common, I would say, to like split them off quite the same. Like if somebody were to like rate Avatar or something, they wouldn't like rate every book necessarily, like most of the time. They would just kind of focus on it as a whole. Whereas even anime, I think people people would, you know, like say book like the second half of Avatar. Like if it were anime, people would be like people would try to isolate the second half and try to like say this is the better one, and you know,
well, like,
right, they would look at the individual seasons of Avatar as different shows, and I will say I think that's because of Mal.
No, yeah, I think you're
right. I think Mal has a huge impact, and when we're out of the database and stuff, I want to get really into this because I have a lot of feelings about it, but I think the impact that Mal has on the way the anime fans treat anime, discuss anime, and talk about it is huge and is almost all overwhelmingly negative, in my opinion.
I mean, no, I feel like we're out of the database talk, but I guess to talk about like how Mal kind of leans into that in a way I hadn't thought about before is say you're on a, you know, like I use Follow My TV for television or cartoons, and say I wanted to add Avatar as my favorite, I would just like go on the Avatar page and hit the heart button, and it counts all the seasons of the same show. But if you look at my Mal favorites, it's like Hidamari Sketch Honeycomb, Chihayafuru, like Sword Art Online Alicization War of Underworld Part 2, right? Like, you know, yes, those are like, but even like with Hidamari Sketch, like normally I would say just, Hidamari Sketch is my favorite anime. But why that season specifically? Well, because last time I rewatched the show, it had like one of my favorite episodes of the show. Like, that's it. Where SAO is like, yes, this is just my favorite part of the show. If I had to divide them, but at the same time, like I do just like all of us, but SAO. But of course, I've always only watched it once through, and I did give like the first season an 8. And even though now I might rate it higher or think of it at least better if I rewatched it, because now it's not just like SAO season 1, it's SAO the start of like my favorite anime or one of my favorite anime, right?
And it's not, that's not to say that there can't be this. What I'm going to say isn't to say that there can't be major differences between seasons of a show, right? Even for a small example, you know, people loved, you know, One Punch Man season 1 was done by Madhouse, had a lot of, you know, staff that's typically associated with Bones working on it. And then season 2 was JC staff, right? And like almost a completely different.
Yeah, and I've seen some bits of it. It doesn't look bad, but it just is not on the same level visually as the first season, and it also doesn't have a complete like arc, because it's the arc that it's adapting is literally still ongoing in the manga.
Right.
The Murata version, obviously not the original webcomic, but yeah.
And that like causes a problem where, you know, and someone watching it could, or not doesn't cause a problem, but that causes, like, someone watching it could notice the difference between those seasons. But, and while there are major differences in SAO and, you know, different arcs have different levels of quality, it's all one story, right? It's one continuous story that goes thing to thing. And people know that, but I think they don't look at it as that, because it's split into these seasons, and because you give these individual seasons different ratings, it causes people to way more than they do with other things, right? And that does exist with Western TV, so somewhat, you know, with sitcoms, there's, you know, jumping the shark. People will constantly say this season's when a sitcom got bad, right? Or the last season sucked or something like that.
I feel like if you were going to rate a TV show, like, then you might go like, well, you know, I really like this show, but, you know, what keeps it from being a 10 for me is that, like, yeah, these seasons are just dog shit, or, you know,
right, or you just say, I give it a 10 and I'm just going to ignore the last season because I don't watch it because it's bad. Right.
Like people with like Western things, people would say like, oh, this specific season drags down the show, so the entire show as a whole becomes this. Whereas like, you know, with an anime, people would just rate things separately and pretend they're not as connected as they are.
Well, yeah, because like, what I was thinking of is just like, yeah, with SAO, if I rewatched it, I'd probably raise my scores all around. I don't, you know, but then, like, I was thinking about Yamano Susume, which I think I have the second season at, like, a 9. Really fucking great. But season 1 is, like, the episodes aren't even 5 minutes long. And it's supposed to be, like, a, you know, kind of relaxing healing show, and I just don't think it can manage that atmosphere in that relatively short amount of time. So I think I have the first season as, like, a 6. And, like, you know, but they are part of they're, you know, they are part of the same series. They're adapting the same manga, and they continue off of one another. But it's, like, you know, it's something I keep thinking about. So,
Yeah, well, and this goes into my big thing where I think Mal inherently, like, does things where it causes people to look at it in less of, like, I don't want to say, like, a less artistic sense, but they don't actually look at it as if you were going to, like, look at it as a piece of art. I would say you really should, right? And, like, especially, you know, talking about even, like, with Naruto, right? Or Dragon Ball. Because the anime split up into 2, and I know both of those, like, they have different names, so you could also put it on, like, the production staff. But, you know, I think they're, like, this is just, like, a bigger version that happens just in the anime community of, like, a smaller thing where, like, both of those are one story, right? It's Naruto and it's Dragon Ball. And people are going to do the exact same thing with Bleach with the 1,000-Year Blood War, where they're going to treat it as something completely different, right? But, like, you have to remember, like, when the story was being made, it was one continuous thing that's meant to be one story, right?
Well, I mean, to interrupt a bit, I don't think they'll do a 1,000-Year Blood War, but they'll definitely do with the new Hell arc, like when it actually like comes back. But continue.
Well, and one thing you made remind me is like, because the problem with the 1,000-Year Blood War is that the anime made changes to the original source material, particularly between like Ichigo's relationship with Rukia and Orihime, in ways that, like, you know, sort of affected the discourse around, like, the relationships of those characters. And, or especially another even bigger example is Tokyo Ghoul, where the original anime ended in a weird spot that was very different from the manga, but then Tokyo Ghoul RE kind of had to, like, undo that. So it's like, you say continuous story, but it's also like they adapted a story and they made changes, and then they kind of, like, had to, you know, it's a little messy and complicated by the nature of, like, how they are adapted, right?
That makes sense.
So it's weird.
Well, yeah, I think what I really wanted to get at is just that, like, you know, I firmly think, and you can notice differences between seasons, right? There are production differences, you know, with Haikyuu season 4, different character designs, the show looks very different. I think the same thing with Alicization for SAO. But I think that, like, people shouldn't, like, if you really want to be, like, I don't know how to explain this. Like, if you want to, like, really look at it in, like, I hate saying the correct way, but, like, the way that's, like, the most fair to the art as it is, you look at the whole thing as one story, right? Mm-hmm. The whole Haikyuu anime is Haikyuu, right? So, like, if Haikyuu season 3 is your favorite, really you should say your favorite anime is Haikyuu, right? But there are people that are going to say, oh, Haikyuu season 3, right? Because that's what Mal fucking conditions their fucking brainworms, how it conditions them to act, you know? Mm-hmm. Or with ReZero, it's ReZero. It's not season 1 and season 2. Especially because season 1 is not bad at all.
Right.
It's fucking great as well. And I think that, like, just that season thing causes people to be, like, really cringe about, like, differentiating seasons. And in some ways, I think it is fair. Like, one I was thinking of, because you had mentioned Digimon, it got me thinking about it, is like with Pokemon, right? Mm-hmm. If I were to, and I do want to legitimately watch all of Pokemon at some point. If I watch Pokemon, I'm going to rate it, like when I give a rating, will be by region. So I'm not going to differentiate, you know, even though like I'd probably watch it in English through like maybe Sinnoh. I'm not going to, you know, rate Advanced different from Advanced Battle, different from Master Quest, right? Mm-hmm. Or Battle Frontier, I think. Master Quest was Johto. I don't fucking know. Like, it's all going to be, you know, the one region. Because, like, that's, like, the full, like, story, right? It takes place in that region. And I think that sometimes people get way too, like, I don't know if it's, like, production focus is the right word, but they get too, like, focused about, like, these small things instead of, like, as the story that it is. Because they're too concerned with, like, the seasons.
Yeah, they're not thinking about it, you know, like, obviously with something like Avatar The Last Airbender, I mean, you know, people are going to talk about Korra kind of like its own thing because, I mean, it kind of is, even though it's also a sequel, but,
I mean, I do think there are situations where it's fair to consider things different, like different.
Well, there's a difference between a sequel and a different story, or the same story, right? Like, you know, like Korra is a sequel. It's not the same story as Avatar, right? It's a sequel to that story. You know, Boruto is a sequel to Naruto. It's not a continuation, right?
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I was just thinking about like Ben 10 because Ben 10 is also a thing that does like different name changes across different and like yeah, with major production changes too, or like I don't know. I only ever watched the first season, so I don't know the details or even how the discourse really works for it. But I don't know how much like of this example of anime discourse also like factors specifically into Ben 10, because I feel like if any show were going to have similar like the ways people discuss things as different season, then Ben 10 would be an example just because it does have so many different like series that are different between them. I don't know, but it's not something. It's just something I thought of. It's not something I know a lot about. Yeah.
I would say Ben 10 probably has that because people would say like the original Ben 10 they would consider that to be the first series, and then they would group like Alien Force and Ultimate Alien together. But the very first series is always like kind of separated from those other things. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I would say it happens.
Okay, so it's not just a database thing; it's definitely like also partly a production thing. But you know, Mal is still like, you know,
I mean, I would excuse it a little bit just because of the name thing,
right?
And Ben 10 actively doing more to like kind of separate itself from previous things. So like, you know, I think it's bad, but it's not like it's a little more understandable and not just because of like
and that's a pretty specific example, right? So like it's not like that's a common one as far as cartoons go, to my knowledge.
Yeah, like even with like, you know, people will say like, oh, Simpsons got worse or Family Guy got worse. Nobody would ever conceive of considering different parts of the show like a different series,
right? And I think that that's even worse in a way, because, you know, Simpsons and Family Guy are episodic. There isn't really large-scale plot things that happen. You know what I mean? It isn't really this overarching story, you know? It's these very independent standalone episodes that
just get
something.
Worse. You're just watching in isolation. You're not thinking about the the donut arc.
Right. Well, that's the thing, though, right? Is that, like, you know, it would almost be more understandable with something like The Simpsons or Family Guy, even though it'd still be cringe because it is this episodic show. Yet when you have something like ReZero that is this story that is being told over multiple seasons, because that's the only way the anime production is feasible to still keep up like a good show, people act like it's something different than what it really is, which is one story being told over a long period of time.
Yeah. What are some other things you had to say, Vindy?
Yeah. Like, just about, like, how I think Mal has negatively impacted the anime community?
Yeah.
Well, so I should explain probably, because I don't think I've done this on podcasts before, why I don't have a Mal anymore. Or an Annie list. Which, essentially just comes down to, like, I deleted it because I felt like I started caring more about the numbers than about, actually like enjoying the show or watching a show because I liked it or like the art itself, right? I cared way too. I started caring more about like the 3,000 volumes, right, and the hundreds of shows, as opposed to let me just watch a show I like, right? Like in the past, I never would have thought about watching Naruto because it's too many episodes, right? I could complete so many other shows, and not complete other shows because I could finish something, but I could complete it and add a completed show on my Mal, right? Or I'd read something or keep watching something just so I can complete it. When it's like, really, it's like, if I don't want to watch it, I should just drop it. And you could say, and I know there's a lot of people, maybe some of them on this podcast, who'd be like, well, I don't have that problem. And it's like, cool, but I did, and I felt like it was negatively impacting my experience.
Who could you be insinuating?
But like, I felt like databasing it was negatively impacting my experience with anime and manga. And the reason I realized is because like I don't have this problem with video games. I don't have this problem with music. I only have it with anime and manga. Why is that?
Because
I'm databasing it.
Right. Where me, I kind of like this stuff anyway. Like I literally have a document on my like desktop that's shonen backlog where I have literally like dozens of series like organized by decade of like that I might want to read one day and what I've already read. Like it's already a thing that like Mal and Bach updates wouldn't make for me. I had to make it myself kind of thing, right? So like me using this website is just me doing something that I like would already want to do if I didn't have this option available to me. Because like I don't even just have Mal. I have my drama list for tokusatsu and Japanese like and East Asian like live action stuff. I have Letterboxd. I have Follow My TV like I have for everything basically because I don't know, it's something I personally enjoy, right? But I understand where you're coming from too, where it's like, well, it's if it's affecting how you enjoy and take part in these things, then like then absolutely I understand where you're coming from.
And sometimes it can be annoying when I I've read a lot of manga and seen a lot of anime. Yeah, there are times I maybe forget, is my manga 5x5 maybe perfect? Probably not. There's probably some manga that are not on there that that like would be if I could see a list of everything I'd read, right? But also it's like I could make the argument that if I couldn't remember it in the moment, is it really one of my favorites, And then on top of that, it's like I can't just have one and not care because it is the very nature of having that list, right? That is what made me have like the experience I did. And I think that is, I'm not going to say that everyone is the same, that like it affected me where like it hurts their enjoyment or anything like that. But I do think that like Mal creates a very big culture of people caring about how much they've seen or how much other people have seen. Right.
I mean, I definitely think that exists without Mal, but Mal still very much gives you like something you can point at and be like, "Look, I've finished 800 shows because it says so right here. I've read this many chapters."
Days,
And I think it's probably like a half and half, where half of it's Mal. I think the other half is because it's a very niche thing, so people are going to gatekeep it a lot harder because it's something that's very special to them, and they they don't want people almost like they don't want fucking normies coming in and taking over their thing, right? But nobody says, "Oh, you like The Office? How many other sitcoms have you seen? Have you seen enough shows to?" You know what I mean? Like that's fucking stupid. And I think that is like a very big thing in the anime community where people like almost determine if like you're allowed to have an opinion based on how many shows you've seen. And I even see it like in like very like normie. You guys can't see, I'm doing air quotes, like normie anime circles, like on TikTok. I see a lot of anime TikToks. I'll be like, I've seen over 500 anime and these are my only 10s, right? And it's like to people who, probably haven't seen even like 50, right? And it's like, it shouldn't matter how many you've seen for what you like, right? But people like to use, their numbers as a sense of, well, I'm right because I've seen more than you or read more than you. And in reality, it should be, if it's a discussion or an argument, you're right based on the quality of your points.
Right, and that's something I've kind of had to like work. Well, not necessarily like amount of things watched, but I definitely remember having instances with people who've where I've just noticed like in the past like elitist tendencies that I've tried to work past and stuff like which I don't think is necessarily exclusive to Mal, but just like maybe it's just me being in the community for longer, right?
Right.
Like because it is kind of interesting because like when sometimes I see people mention shows and I'm like, oh yeah. I read that or watched that when it was airing or something like Kill la Kill, right? Which was this big deal. Like, I was there on the ground floor. Or, like, I think White asked me, like, something about Death Note, and I was like, I read it, like, 9 years ago. Like, and he's like, damn, you're old. So, you know, but, so I recognize some mindsets about that I've had to, like, work to get out of, right? And, like, yeah, like, because, like, one thing I've had, I don't think this has to do with Mal or anything, but just like because I consume so much media, I don't necessarily absorb it a lot, which I think you'll notice on some of the backlogs, especially, right? Where like
it's just kind of in one ear out the other,
right? And that doesn't mean I didn't like the thing, but it's just like I'm also consuming so much. And I think I mentioned that as like I think when we were talking about like I think we were talking about buying manga and how like some people who only like read through legal options, like because if they buy manga and they're they're using their time instead of like reading new series, they're rereading stuff that they already own. They're probably going to gain more appreciation for it and like remember things better. Where like with me, like yeah, I have that with One Piece because I've been experiencing it so much for so long. But I don't necessarily have that with other things because I don't spend not nearly as much time with them because I am kind of focused on like trying to experience a lot of media and understand it and have this backing, right? Because I do like want to talk about it as an authority, which means like, well, I should know more things and read more things to have a better perspective. But that also has the alternative effect of like, they don't stick with me as much.
Yeah, well, and I think there's a difference between like, oh, sorry, were you gonna say something, Nun?
Yeah, but you can continue.
Well, I guess to add on, because again, I don't think that's inherent to Mal, but I definitely like buy if like you said, Vindy, where you're thinking about the numbers and stuff. If you're that kind of person who wants to see number go up, then yeah, you're probably more going to be inclined to do what like with me. It's I don't think it's like number go up. Like I'm about to hit 800 anime completed. I noticed it. But I'm like, I don't really, like, I'm not, what are some quick things I could watch to quick, I don't care about the numbers, right? But it's...
Right, and that's what I'd be doing is like, gotta watch some movies, gotta get to that next big number.
Right, but, but I do, like, I still have that basic problem, but just for a different reason, of just, like, and part of it is also I have so much free time right now, because I've been unemployed since last January, so I just have a lot of free time to go watch, like, I'm 180 episodes into Boruto. Help me, right? So, yeah. But you guys were both gonna say something. So
I want Nana to say his thing first.
Yeah, I do think that I definitely sometimes have that thing where I kind of just want to complete something, just because like I feel like I should, and part of it's like the number, but also part of it's just kind of like, well, actually no, like I feel like. It's become a thing where it's like even if I didn't have a Mal at this point, I do think I generally feel like I should like consume more, so I have to finish things faster instead of like taking my time. Well, and it's like I think it's really like difficult for me to like read like comics because of it in some sense, because they're wordier, so it feels like I'm going through it slower, so I feel like I can't just like spend this extended period of time with it.
It's less efficient,
right? Yeah. Well, see, I guess what I thought you were gonna say, and sometimes I think is like, especially because we're on an anime podcast. I am particular, or like, well, no, we all have our channels and our content, right? So it's like, I like to feel as though I'm like, I'm speaking as an authority. Yeah. So like sometimes I finish things because like. Everyone else is dumb and wrong about them. But if I finish something, I've completed it. I can talk about it now, right? Like, so like I've thought about one day I'm probably going to watch Mirai Nikki and then read it, right? I'm not interested at all. I don't expect to like it, but like, what if everybody else is being stupid and wrong about it? And I'm the only one. Like, it's popular. People like it. Why? Like, I want to know I feel the same way about Seraphic Blue. I played it already. I hated it. It was bad. But there's a part of me that wants to go, this 50-hour, like, RPG Maker game, I want to beat it. So that I know. Right? Like, realistically speaking, I should be thinking of better uses of my time, but there's a part of me that wants to, like, know and experience this thing, because what if everyone else is wrong? Or what if so that's why I sometimes finish things that maybe I wouldn't have otherwise, right? That's which is kind of not really what you're talking about.
I mean, I just want to say this, like, I kind of wish that I had a mentality of kind of like, as long as I'm enjoying it, it doesn't matter the amount of time that I'm spending on it, because like I do always just feel a rush to finish something. And sometimes it could be helpful. Like, I should finish something so I have something to talk about on the podcast. But, I usually don't have a problem with that anyway. So it's just like, I don't have to finish like a bunch of things, but it's just like, it's hard to take myself away from that mindset.
Yeah.
Especially when it's just like, it's common that somebody would brag that like, oh, they've read so many things in this amount of time, or, like I just think it's definitely a problem for me. And, I would think it's like somewhat related to having Mal and stuff.
Well, first I was just say Crafts that like, things are popular I want to get. That's what made me watch all the DCEU.
Okay, yeah.
It was that, and it was, the Snyder Cut I thought was super interesting, and that's what made me watch all these fucking dog shit movies that I didn't like, and some that I really did. But, like, I
Look, the fact that you walked away from the Snyder Cut going, good movie, was actually like top 10 anime plot twists, I swear to fucking God.
I see, it wasn't for me, because I don't know why, I was expecting to like it. Everyone was saying it was good, so I expected there would be something there that makes it good. I was not expecting to like it as much as I fucking did. Let me tell you what. Like, I would watch that movie again, and it's 4 hours long.
Jesus Christ, you're a monster.
But the other thing is, like, I think there's a very big difference between watching and reading things that are like your due diligence as an authority, right? Your research, and just to do more, right?
Yeah.
There's a very big difference between, if I wanted to talk about shonen manga, reading Kinnikuman, reading, JoJo's, reading Fist of the North Star, reading Roku Donashi Blues, reading Ring Nikakaru, right? Reading these very landmark series so that I have more of an idea of where things are coming from and kind of like the standards that set the genre.
Mm-hmm. Right. The time and place that these series were in, and Ring Nikakaru, maybe you won't like it, but knowing that, like, Yuta Tamago and Toriyama were reading Ring Nikakaru and going, fuck, I want to draw something like this. And then they did, that kind of would change how you feel, how you're, going into it as you're reading it, right?
And then, the problem is there are a lot of people who use their numbers, to talk as an authority, but they weren't doing, due diligence, right? They're watching shit like fucking Masamune-kun's Revenge and fucking, just, whatever random seasonal shows up, right? And they just watch a bunch of those, and then they're like, yeah, I've seen a shit ton of anime. And it's like, well, that just because you've seen a high number doesn't mean that you know about the history of the industry or the medium or all these other things.
Number of shows doesn't necessarily mean that you are well read or knowledgeable, right? It just means you've seen a bunch of shows. So especially that's cool that you watch a bunch of seasonal shows, but also that discussion is very transient in the first place. So right, you might be very knowledgeable about spring 2019. Right, you could tell me every show, but doing it. If you didn't have a good time doing it, then what was the point? Right? So you could talk about people and, oh, look at all these shows I'm watching in the moment. If you're having fun in discussion, that's fine, even if you didn't like the show. But, I don't know. It's just what are you getting out of it? Because if, you're legitimately getting nothing out of it, you're not discussing it with anyone and having it fun doing that, you're not enjoying the thing, and there's no purpose behind it for, research or knowing things, then, why are you watching the show? Because if it's just to get a number up, then why not use that time and watch something else?
Right. Hello? None?
Yeah, I misclicked into another PC.
I was gonna say, is he okay? Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know. I almost don't want to do the last part of my Mao rant because it's so toxic.
You can, but real quick, I wanted to add on to something Anand was saying, because, a feeling, because, the feeling of, I'm not going through things enough when I have more to go through, which I think is maybe less about what you're consuming and more about just having a backlog, because for me, it almost doesn't matter what I'm doing, I'm still always thinking about, okay, what's next? And which, again, goes into that mindset of, maybe forgetting things or not dwelling on things long enough. Because I'm fucking going, I was looking down, I'm going through Danganronpa 2 right now, and I'm loving it, but also it's a fucking visual novel. I'm only a third of the way through, and there's a part of me that's just well, what about my anime manga rewatch that I've been doing for years, and I'm barely into it, I feel like.
I do think there's some series where you could probably speed through it and be fine, but, I think different series require different amounts of time. So having to go through it fast for like all of them is really bad. Because like you know, like you're not gonna like get every series well enough by going through it fast. You know, like you could probably read One Piece again really fast and like you know, appreciate it just as much.
Damn.
But like I don't know, like if you sped through Code Geass or something and you missed the point or whatever.
1.5 speed, let's go.
Man, this guy is really like fucking putting the secret fourth member, as mentioned earlier, on fucking blast.
I'm not.
Fuck, holy shit.
No, I literally just said Code Geass as a random example. It was.
I was talking about you saying speeding through One Piece.
Oh,
and maybe rating
no,
it lower
I didn't even connect
Roboco
or Eden Zero.
One Piece is drawn by Komi Naoshi, or One Piece is drawn by Dr. Stone's artists. Like
Boichi,
thank you, I forgot the name.
If you do want me to like put someone on blast, Vindy with me and Roboco, when he was reading it for the Jump chapter reviews, literally missed a Vindy character in the form of Gachi Gorilla.
By the time I stopped doing it, Gachi Gorilla was like not even a character. Like I don't even think he had the name Gachi Gorilla.
He was in the first chapter.
Yeah, but I don't remember him being called Gachi Gorilla.
I think it probably had like Gachi Gorilla within like one of those Square introduction things, but they probably didn't like mention him being Gachi Gorilla or
they might have called him like Gorilla, but like he wasn't consistently called Gachi Gorilla, you know? And he wasn't anything more, because when I was reading it, it was really just the main guy in Roboco, because that's all it was really going over at the time. Like, it was setting up their relationship. So you can't say...
You still missed that it was a 10, so...
Well, that might be true. But you can't say I missed Gachi Gorilla because he wasn't, like, a character yet, you know? It's like someone watching, like, the first 5 episodes of Naruto and being like, you missed Shikamaru, he's right there, he's great. He didn't do anything!
Also, real quick, he was at least named Gachi Girl. I don't know. I don't know what I was checking anymore. All right, go on your toxic Mal rant.
Okay, look. This is really toxic, so y'all are going to have to bear with me.
Oh, wait, actually, I'm sorry. I just realized something else I wanted to mention before you went full toxic.
Do it. Because Craftsdwarf's going to hate me after this rant, because it might get a little elitist. But
I'm only elitist about porn websites. Like, X Hentai is better than Hentai. There, I said it.
I think Mal probably is also a contributor to everyone thinking that they have the tools to like review things and be able to, like...
this fucking man just sit here and steal my toxic rant before I went on it?
Look, okay,
I don't want to go on it anymore.
I did think this could possibly be
I don't even
related
want to go
to
on
what
the
you were saying. I didn't know if it would be the full extent, but I felt like go ahead. I'm sorry.
So basically, I think the fact that Mal has, like, the fact that not only does Mal have scores, right? Because obviously you could say, well, people don't have to use it. The fact that scoring and giving scores and having, like, a wide array of scores, and people might disagree with this, VNs are so closely related to anime that this counts for VNDB as well, actually. And I will get to VNDB in a second, because that is horrendous what that shit does. So, like, with Mal, right? Because everyone scores it, everyone thinks their opinions matter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's almost breeding a bunch more people into being reviewers, when, like, without Mal, maybe some people wouldn't do that.
Look, there are some people
everyone's doing it.
that write Mal reviews. There are a lot of people that write Mal reviews that shouldn't be writing Mal reviews, right? You go to any fucking series and scroll down and read a review or two. There's always going to be dog shit ones that miss the point, do the 5-point review format, do all this cringe shit that just, like, shows that, like, they don't understand what they're talking about when they talk about art, because Mal gives everyone the tool to give something a rating. And Mal makes everyone's rating matter because it counts to the score. So people actually think that, like, their dog shit opinions matter, right? Like, and sure, maybe, like, okay, obviously, your opinions matter to you, right? Don't get me wrong, right? Your opinions matter to you, and your opinions matter to people who care about what you have to say, right? That doesn't mean you have an informed opinion about something, right? You can give Sword Art Online a 1, miss the point, and sure, maybe there are people who are going to care and are going to listen, right? I had an argument with a friend about this one time where, like, I was basically saying that, like, because he said a game didn't deserve to win Game of the Year when he hadn't played it. And I was like, that's dumb. Like, you haven't played it. Like, why? Like, you just shouldn't, like, actually just shouldn't even, like, say that, right? Because you haven't played the game. Like what I said is your opinion doesn't matter if you haven't played the game, which I stand by that. He's like, well, it matters to some people. He was like, for example, my wife would care more about my opinion than she would about yours, even though I haven't played. I was like, she's your wife. That doesn't count. In like any kind of real sense where you're talking to people who actually care about what it's about, your opinion shouldn't matter because you haven't experienced it. Or in the same way, if you just like clearly missed it and like a fucking children's manga went over your head, like your score doesn't matter as much as someone who gets it, right? Like I care way more about someone's opinion who gets Naruto, understands what it's going for, thinks it's a 2. I'd much rather have a conversation with them than someone who doesn't get Naruto and gave it a 10. Because the person who gave it a 10 for the wrong reasons would be infuriating. Obviously, the one who gets it and is a 2 probably has some dog shit fucking excuses. But, you know what I mean? Like, that's a more, like you know, it's more understandable. And Mal just, like, gives everyone this tool to think that, like, they can just assign something a score. And you can say, okay, well, why do you know, people care what you do, what you say? Y'all are the ones listening to this fucking podcast. So you're the ones, you know what I mean? Like, your opinions essentially have as much weight as people are going to give it and people are going to listen to it, right?
Yeah, it depends on the platform, and Mal is giving these a platform, right? Like, you literally, like, almost can't avoid Mal reviews, right? Like, I don't read them, but I see them because they're on the front page of every show or manga I look at the main page for. If I want to add it to my fucking list, I go to list, there's Mal reviews. Just scroll slightly down, and I, again, can't really avoid them. Right,
and scores as well, I think, are a huge part of it because
scores are right under the poster of the thing and right above, or they're right there with you click it, you add it to your list, you're gonna see that people fucking hate it, right? Like, you can't avoid it.
Well,
yeah,
I would argue against that just a little bit. That you know, you have to scroll down quite a bit. But you know, I mean, you know, I'm not.
If I want to look at the opening and the endings, the reviews are right below that. So you're right. Well, yeah, it's not quite on the first like page frame, but you know, it's still like very like easy to see.
It's not even just like about like I guess like the platform. It's the fact that it like because everyone's rating something with a number, it leads everyone to think that everyone should care about their number.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
Right, when at the end of the day, like, the numbers are just, like, a you know, something that you've assigned a meaning to regarding, like, every one you give, right?
Yeah, I hate number scores. I only give them if I'm asked, and sometimes I still don't give them.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think, yeah, it's just, yeah. So.
Yeah, I think I'm a little too broken by giving number scores to try not to do that, but I've definitely thought about how... it is a lot better to be able to explain how you feel about something instead of just the number. And, yeah, well, you know, numbers can be, like, helpful, like, shorthand to just, like, kind of make it clear just how much you like something without, like, like, you're not going to explain every show you've watched or read. So having a number is pretty helpful, especially for things that, you know, it's been a while, or, you know, like some people just find it easier to just be able to give a number to some other people. But you know, I'd probably say that, like, having everyone be used to scoring is probably overall a negative, just because some people use it in such a way that it kind of downplays people being able to explain themselves and think about how they feel about something when they're just giving it a number.
I think it also
and kind of reducing shows to all they are as a number, like, you know, this is just a 1 or this is just a 2 or whatever.
Yeah, it also, I think, super inflates people's egos.
Oh yeah, just to be able to be like, oh, this is just a 2, this is not that good.
Yeah, like to just outright call something trash, right? And I feel more than fine, even though I give number ratings, completely hating on them, because for those that, I mean, nobody knows this anymore. Before I deleted my Mal, like a year before I removed number scores from it. Mm-hmm. So I've been anti-number scores for years now.
Even longer than you know, like you said, deleted your Mal and stuff, right?
Yeah, the only reason I even give scores is because I have to for the podcast, right? Like, when we do a backlog, I have to fucking give a number score because that's the fucking format we're doing.
Right.
But if it wasn't for that, like, I generally don't like doing it because I think it's, in a lot of ways, I think it can be really unhelpful. The only number I'll ever assign is 10 because I think giving a 10 actually... Well, I think giving a 10, like, saying something's a 10, right, is really meaningful. But besides that, I don't think numbers matter.
Well, yeah, I definitely think agree that it's generally unhelpful. But for if you're like for speaking personally, like when I give a number rating, like I've mentally assigned like a meaning to that number, right?
Right.
So it's like a 4 is something that it's like boring and I don't care about it, right? Like that's my shorthand for it. Like, and I usually like that. So if you look at my list and see everything I give a 4, you can see that's probably something I don't care about. But you have to know that beforehand, right? If you just see it, well, it's like, okay, it's a 4. You dislike the show more than a show that you give a 5 or higher, right? Like, it's not helpful to anyone but me. Yet here it is publicly displayed for everyone to infer as they will. Right.
Right.
So it's not, helpful to other people except myself. But it's like, well, I don't want to like hide my list from other people because in fact, I'll often say like, hey, because, did you see this? Just fucking, it's public. Go just check my mail. I link it on every video I do. Right. Where, but, yeah, like, yeah, I don't know. I was going somewhere with that, but I think I forgot where I was going.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that, obviously there's difference because you actually have sat down and like, to you, each number means something. Yeah. Most people don't do that. They just give a gut feeling, right?
Which that's why I probably would have been anti-number rating because like, I found like a helpful like flowchart someone had made that helped me define what meanings I assigned to my numbers. But yeah, I actually had a problem because I watched the show and I was like, well, I like it better than the 6 out of 10, but I don't like it as much as the 7 out of 10, and I didn't know what to give it. And I got frustrated because like just going on the gut feeling like didn't like solve like, okay, well, what do I rate this show until I started following this flowchart. And eventually determining like what the scores meant to me, because now I now don't need the flowchart anymore, and my meanings are even different from the flowchart. Right. But but yeah, I can still tell you what they mean, right?
And on top of that, it's like when I finish a series and motherfuckers in Vinmanji are like, "What number do you give it?" Why would you ask me for my number? That literally doesn't tell you anything about how I feel about it, right? Instead of asking someone, and I know you just want to ask for a quick idea so you can see how much they like it. It's cringe. I'm talking about you. You're cringe. Instead, ask, what did you think of it? How do you feel about it? Right? Actually try to, like, get an idea of how they... Because, there could be an 8 that's like, yeah, I think it was, like, really, really well executed. It was, like, super well animated or super phenomenal art. It was kind of mid on, like, I wasn't super emotionally attached to it, but I just respect the... You know what I mean? Like, the... especially for, like, video games. It's like... An 8 could be an 8 because the gameplay is dog shit and the story's amazing, or it could be an 8 because the gameplay is amazing and I literally skipped the cutscenes, right? Like
Monster Hunter.
yeah. Like they're not the same. So it's like you have to talk to someone to get an idea of why they like something instead of just asking for their fucking number,
right?
Because that doesn't tell you anything.
Like you can look at like generally what they like and make like you were talking with Mysterious Fourth Member about like their favorite albums. And I remember, like, you mentioned that they seemed like singing or something like that, I think.
Yeah.
Right? So, because they
like really good vocal performances because they were saying they don't know what the tie is, and the tie is phenomenal vocals.
Right, because you realize that and, like, I think I remember thinking about, like, a lot of the video games I like is I just tend to focus on gameplay. Like, I wouldn't, over story necessarily, right? Which might change when I play more games, but, like, I just tend to notice that I just tend to... care about that aspect more in like my favorite games that I have right now. But like what's Monster Hunter but my favorite franchise, and why is that? Because I like the gameplay, right? So but that's still different from like number scores and stuff. But it's like, and yeah, I also like like Malgraph I think is neat. I check it so often just to see it, but it's like it's purely I don't know why it's dumb, but yeah. Are we about done with the topic?
I am.
Yeah, we can move on.
Yeah, that was longer than I thought. Anyway, so before we get into the seasonal show, so if you're a patron, I have already started the poll for the next show that we will be watching. You can only vote on it if you're a patron. So the poll is going to be going for like 2 weeks. It'll end on the 1st of October, which is about when the season is going to start. Because we finished the show of this season. Kanajo mo Kanajo is over.
I watched it this time. Are you proud of me?
I was gonna like bully you especially because you waited so long to update your thread. I was gonna like on Twitter. I was gonna.
Oh, I watched it like when I woke up this morning.
I know, but I was hoping that you wouldn't, so I could call you a liar. But then you updated.
I had already watched it, by the time Nun added me in the Weeb Club chat telling me to watch the rest of it, and I said, start the tuning exams, that was because I'd already finished it. And then I did start the tuning exams, so really I'm taking dubs. But yeah, what'd y'all think of it?
I really liked the last episode.
Yeah, it was really great. I really like Naoya was really great in it. Not that he wasn't great in a couple episodes prior, but I think I think this ending really had Naoya at some of the best he's been in a little bit. I would say personally.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of refusing to let Minase be the number two, especially when he wants to make both of them happy.
And he knows she doesn't want that either. And
yeah, he knows that she wouldn't be as happy as she can be if she's holding back and kind of allowing Saki to have an upper hand.
Mm-hmm.
And I really just the whole chase scene towards the end of the episode. And I like that everyone's there finally, and it's kind of everything's out the window.
They were calling each other stupid, and I'm just I just think about this image. They're you two are calling each other stupid, really? You're both stupid. The fact that the episode starts and it's Nagisa and Saki are talking in the bath, and then we see that Naoya is in the other bath, and also he's still wearing his clothes. That made me laugh.
I did like that he was wearing his shirt in the bath.
But also, yeah, I like getting more about Nagisa. And just it just recontextualizes a bit how the series started, because and a bit more why Naoya accepted her, because he also tried to work really hard to get Saki and to get into a relationship with her, and Nagisa kind of did the same thing with him. They're really similar. And they're both hard workers when it comes to that thing. They're both really terrible otherwise. They only have to they have to work hard to get to this level that they're at. And so I don't know. It's just neat to see how similar they were. And that original her falling in love with him at the school and him being himself still. And yeah, it was really good.
Actually, you can go first, Vindy, since you haven't said much about it yet.
Yeah, I like Kanjuma Kanjo a lot. I do like that this is kind of a really good culmination of what's been going on so far, right? And we mentioned even very early on about how Nagisa was very much I just want this to last, and very somber about it, and in a way was denying her feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And so I loved watching again, I think this show and this series does a lot of really great stuff involving the ideas that and the legitimate conflicts you could run into as in a polyamorous relationship, right? And I think that this series does a really good job with that, and it's really commendable. I also think that I fucking love when when Nagisa's she decides she's gonna admit that she's Naoya's girlfriend as well, which is such a great moment that she's finally able to be open about that in front of people. And then Saki asks are you serious about trying to take Naoya, be Naoya's number one from me? And she said yes, and Saki didn't actually get upset, right? She was all right, let's go. And I think that's really good.
Mm-hmm.
I also like how it ended with they're all hanging off of Naoya, and then Shino comes in. It's excuse me, you're 3-timing, and they're just so stupid. I also really like them. Or what?
I was saying you can't mention Shino without mentioning the massive Shino drop we fucking got.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck.
I've been saying Shino's stuff is so fucking good.
Yeah.
And we only got a tease of it, but now you get what she's about.
Yeah, see, I'm definitely going to read the manga. I don't think I'm going to read it right away. I'll give it a little bit of time, but I'm definitely going to catch up, at this point. So,
I'm only going to give it some time just so there's more chapters, but I do want to read it.
Also, I like the whole montage of them, having their little, hot springs vacation. Especially, I laughed when they're bathing together, but Naoya is blindfolded. That was funny.
I did like that.
And, well, one thing I thought about is, like, with them being close, and especially seeing in that part, and also seeing the flashback where Naya's back to screaming out Saki again in public, even if when they weren't in a relationship back in that time period, is how, like, I think since, like, he got into the relationship, he's been more reserved, because, like, if he is, like, that loud about loving Saki again, well, Nagisa is also his girlfriend, so he can't just do that anymore. And that really struck me, like, seeing this episode again, or seeing this episode and seeing him be like that again, about how he hasn't been like that, or I feel like he hasn't. No, to a lesser degree, like, you know, they're still loud and they're all still stupid, but it was just something I noticed that's different as to far as, comparing the two, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Also, there was the part where Nalia's like, yeah, I'm going to tell Saki's mom about our relationship. And even Shina's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? He's so stupid.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was fun. I liked the last episode. I liked the show. Good show.
The Shino stuff. God. It's so fucking good that she likes Nalia from the beginning, but, like, can't do anything because she is, like, rejecting, the idea of two-timing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, now I think about it, it does kind of, like, contrast her with Nagisa, because Nagisa, like, liked Nalia and was willing to go for it anyway, even though he was already in a relationship. But Shino has been reserving herself, and now that, like, oh, well, Nalia is willing to get with multiple girlfriends, that kind of places her at that interesting spot. So I can see how that might go going forward.
Well,
but
and it's so good because the series talks so much, even what we about, like, regret, right? Nalia wants to make sure they don't regret dating him. Mm-hmm. And then was talking to Nagisa about how he said, he tried to make this work because he would regret if he didn't, right? And Nagisa was living in a way where she wouldn't regret what happened. Mm-hmm. and like that idea, and you have Shino who's living her life in a way that she could look back later and regret it,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't have anything else to say.
Me neither about Kanjima Kanajo. Do we give scores here, right? I don't fucking remember anymore.
I don't care.
I mean, we technically haven't done it yet. Like, we technically don't have to because it's like
there's no precedent, right? Because we haven't done the.
You're right. This is the first.
You don't have to.
Do y'all want to?
I don't feel like it.
Pog, get number scores the fuck out of my Weeb club. Woo!
Me and Nun have them on our mouse. So if you're really curious, just go check. Whatever. Anyway, Nun, what did you do this week?
Well, it's more so what I did like maybe
that's fine too.
A while ago.
We're talking about it.
Yeah, ReZero season 2.
That's right.
I can't believe Craftsdwarf asked that, completely forgetting.
Nun's
I've known all episode and I've been waiting. Nope, I've been waiting all episode to talk about ReZero.
It should have happened like 2 weeks ago. I don't
Doesn't
know
matter.
If he's gonna delay it anymore.
ReZero season 2 was really good. Like everything about like I think this, obviously the episode where Subaru sees his parents is really good. That, I'm sure everyone's talked about a lot. But like also, I'm surprised that my favorite part wasn't even that. It was more so the auto stuff and Subaru finally like actually having like a really good and solid like friend like Rem and Amelia are his friends, but like.
But that's different because there's a romantic.
Is different, yeah, because there's a romantic thing there, and there's kind of like very different feelings. But like Subaru and Otto are just kind of like bros, and they can kind of like talk in a different way that he can't really with Rem and Amelia, and like this season does that a lot too with like he has what's her name, Echidna, as someone who actually knows his secret. Well, not secret, but like knows
someone
he can't tell
to.
others. Yeah, like he's fulfilling all of these different roles that he didn't have before, and I cried when Otto was like, when Otto came in to save Subaru from the, I guess dungeon. I don't know if that's the correct way to refer to it.
We know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, and Subaru not even thinking about the idea of him and Otto being friends, was really good. I don't know if it's like my favorite thing in the entire season, but it's definitely like super up there. And something that I've thought about a lot. Roswell's also like actually out of his mind.
He's so good.
He's an actual psychopath. But I do really like how he's doing that thing where he's trying to make Subaru into someone who's like him. Like I really like that he
like
sees
that
her in like in similar positions, so he knows how to mold Subaru to someone like him, and kind of knows what he's probably thinking. But Subaru obviously throughout the season surpasses that and kind of
actually. What you kind of, since I hadn't thought about the comparison before, but like what's kind of interesting is that compared to like the examples we talked about in the Ava podcast, there's more of the show, so we're going to see
there's
more
more time for Roswell to be this
right. So that'll be interesting compared to like Obito or where the series is basically over, so we don't get to see prolonged periods of him being on the side of the protagonist, right? So that
especially with Roswell, literally. Actually, is that too much of a spoiler to say? I don't know.
Well, I guess I won't say that. I'm assuming you mean his connection to the character we see in the flashback.
No, I was just gonna say the thing where he like literally can't betray them because of a reason.
Okay.
He just literally.
That's
can't.
so pog. I love it.
I also really liked seeing Beatrice get more. Like even in like season 1, I think I liked Beatrice more than other people did. Not that other people didn't like her, but nobody really talked about her that much.
I think most people thought of her as kind of not a nothing, but like she hadn't had really much screen time to like develop yet.
This was the season where we got her stuff compared to season 1 that introduces her and establishes her for sure. But right, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do think it's like super cool that like Subaru's like finally, I guess saving this person who's already saved him so long ago. Like actually no, she would technically be the second person who saved Subaru because Subaru considers Amelia the first person who saved him, but Beatrice would technically be the second.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you could count what the fuck is his name, Reinhard.
Mm-hmm.
But she was one of the early people who really went out of her way to care about him and like protect him. So it was like,
and now we know why.
Mm-hmm. And especially like, oh sorry, go ahead.
No, you keep going. You're the one. It's your backlog. You get to talk about it as much as you want, and then I'll say stuff after.
I especially really like the whole, she has this kind of, this duty to fulfill and this kind of, sense of obligation that she feels she has to do. And she feels kind of like bounded by, I don't know if fate would be the right word to use, but she feels stuck by that. And like Subaru kind of, convinces her to throw that all out. And I thought like the scene, like, what scene I'm talking about where he's like, he's basically risking his life. And like in this instance, he kind of didn't have to, but he still wants to because he like still really cares about her and like he just wouldn't feel good leaving her behind. And this season has like so many scenes like that that are so good, and it's just like
I love a lot of the things he says in that conversation, like how he mentions that he won't be around forever, but he'll make every day. The line I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I love that line.
Like he basically he says how like even though he'll be a short amount of time in her like long life or whatever, he wants to be like so amazing that she'll like still remember him even after he dies.
Right. I also something I love. Well, there's a lot I love about ReZero Season 2, don't get me wrong. There's so many great moments. But I love the way that, like, a lot of times, right, in ReZero, it's the last arc. Because at the beginning, something happens where it can't, or the last loop, right? Because, like, something will happen at the very beginning of the loop, and you're like, that can't be reversed, That is,
it's too important of a moment to, like,
after episode 18 of season 1, he's going through the rest of that in one, or at least he's making it to the next checkpoint, right? Mm-hmm. Because that conversation is too important to have walked back on, right?
Oh
my God. Okay. But but then like, I love the way that it is in this one where Subaru doesn't have all the answers, but he kind of learned from the witch that's like the evil one that he's supposed to hate. Like, wow, people do care about me. I can't just kill myself,
Mm-hmm. Like he also has to be someone he kind of has to try and save in a sense.
Right. Yeah. And so he has to decide to die or to not die. Right. And to actually like really put his all into it. And so I like how that from the beginning of that loop, even when shit's going terrible and you're like, this is fucking boomed, he's got to do with that loop. It's fucking great. I love, I think I'm sure you loved it too. I know I've mentioned it to Crafts, but I love the line that Betty has when Roswell tells her that she'll never be Subaru's number one. The line she says back to him is so fucking good.
Yeah, I do know what you're talking about.
Fucking great. Ugh.
But yeah, season 2 is really good. I really like how big the cast is now.
Yeah.
So there's like so many new characters and so many people who are following Subaru and in turn gonna be helping Amelia.
Yes. They're there for Subaru. That's what I love about it. So even Roswell, like he has reason to help Amelia, but at this point he's following Subaru, right? Otto's following Subaru. Garfield's following Subaru. Betty's following Subaru, right? When Rim comes back, she'll be following Subaru. Like all these characters are there because of Subaru, and that's why that's why the fucking the final thing that happens is the thing that happens. And it's so fucking good, and I fucking love it. Oh my god, yes. And then last thing to say is Amelia's a dumb bitch. She doesn't know how babies are made, and it's so funny.
She's so fucking cute. Oh my god.
I will never get over that scene in my life. I watch it maybe every other week. It's so fucking funny. It's so cute. She gets so bright red. Oh my fucking god. Like the tips of her ears. Holy shit.
She's so funny. Yeah. Season 2 is really fucking good.
There's a reason everyone in the Weeb Club has it on their favorite shows.
Yeah.
All right. Is it the Vindy Vondo's turn now? You're
yeah.
I was asking if you're done.
I mean, I could talk about it more, but I don't want to go on too long about it.
Right. I do have a friend waiting for me at a bar, and the longer I go, probably the more drunk he's gonna be. So, the person who I wouldn't say he's my favorite.
Again.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, he's on a fucking mission today. I wouldn't say that it's my favorite. He's my favorite artist just musically, but he's definitely my favorite person in the music industry across like personality, his social media, and I mean I fucking love his music. Lil Nas X, Montero came out on Friday. We're recording this on Saturday. I've been listening to it basically nonstop for the last really 3 days because it came out Thursday night. I watched his like hour-long little show he did going into the album. I fucking banger album. Probably my album of the year. And that's in a year with good albums, right? Like even if all their albums weren't amazing, like it's a year where Brockhampton had an album, Tyler the Creator had an album, Kanye had an album. There were a lot of really good albums that came out this year. Death from Above 1979 had an album. Like there were a bunch of great albums that I liked a lot this year. And Montero was so fucking good. I think every song on it I like a lot. It's a short album, right? You have Certified Lover Boy and Donda were both hour 45-minute fucking albums. Jesus. Right? Because of streaming services, right? You have to kind of make long albums that have a bunch of songs so you can get a couple songs in people's playlists so they get a lot of plays, so you make money from that, right? It's just kind of the unfortunate reality of streaming services. Lil Nas's album is 41 minutes long. The guy's built different. It's 41 minutes and every song is fucking good. And the album's like themes of like, because the album is very much in a lot of ways about how he got very popular off of Old Town Road and Panini, and then came out as gay, and then did Call Me By Your Name, got a lot of like heat, a lot of pushback against him. Mm-hmm. Has a lot of very a lot of naysayers who some of it is just because he's very openly gay, and so there's a lot of this like like being a 20-year-old, and like there's like two halves to him almost in a lot of the songs, where there's him who's very confident and you know, very confident about the success he's had, and you know, he's had these songs topping the charts, has Grammys, has, you know, VMA awards. Old Town Road, one of the biggest songs ever, right? Huge fucking song. But then there's a side of him that still feels, you know what I mean? He feels a lot of like negativity, and there's a lot of stuff like that. It's really fucking good. Fucking great album. I really recommend it to anyone who has heard any of his songs and likes them, or even not. It's really fucking great album. I've been listening to it constantly. Yeah.
I haven't listened to any of his music, but he's funny on Twitter.
He's so funny. Oh my god. And he's been like doing this thing with Anthony Fantano, where like he's been tweeting at Fantano, tweeted at him like months ago, or like no, not months ago, like a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, when he like announced the album. He's like, look, Anthony, if you don't give this album a 10, we're gonna have to talk. And then a couple days ago, Anthony Fantano, I think yesterday, was like predictions for Montero, and it was like red flannel, yellow flannel, which if you don't know, red flannel, if he's wearing that, it means he didn't like it. Yellow flannel means he did. And then him and Lil Nas have been going back and forth on TikTok, like kind of, you know, like Lil Nas has been making jokes about how he says he doesn't care what Melon gives it, but he does care. It's been really entertaining to watch, and I love him on Twitter.
Fantano's also like a memester, right? So it's like there's like this tongue-in-cheek awareness of what they're doing, and it's
Fantano responded to Lil Nas's TikTok where Lil Nas was like, I say I don't care, but I do. Essentially, was like the point of it about the rating, and in his response, he was wearing the red flannel, and I'm convinced he put it on just for the TikTok.
That's funny.
It's actually been really fun to watch. And not to mention just on Twitter. So I don't know how much of it you guys have seen. He got like a fake prosthetic pregnant belly. And so for like 2 weeks before the album came out, he was just posting pictures and stuff of him pregnant. Let me see if I can find at least one picture to show. So he's been like pregnant. Yeah, here's a picture of it. He's been posting stuff like this, or him working out, or him getting drug tested while pregnant. Because he's pregnant with the album. He's really funny, and his music's not like funny, you know, his music is just good. But yeah, super great. I love it, and I'm very excited for what obviously he's not going to release something again soon, right? Mm-hmm. But I am very excited for whatever he releases.
Cool. So y'all are talking about things you really, really liked.
Let's go, Invaders.
Yeah, we do streams on my server, and the last show we watched was Invader Zim Season 1. And yeah, I wasn't a big fan. I didn't like. See, here's the thing: is like I respect the show. Like it's you know, like even though I literally never watched it outside of on TV, so we're talking literally 20 years ago. I still remembered a lot of the episodes, or at least something that happened in them. Because, like, the show is, like, weird and dark, and, you know, so a lot of it stuck with me. That's in itself, like, good. And, there, you know, I think it's, you know, the show has a very clear style to it, and, like, I think, you know, it knows what it is, and I think, like, because it's very much a cult show. Like, when I think about Invader Zim, I just think about how, like, people really fucking like this show. You know, I'm not one of those people. Like... You know, I didn't dislike the show. It's very much just like not my thing. Like, I'm not into gross out humor. I'm not into like the basically. I'm not into gur. And
so we know why Craftsdwarf was not super popular, even though he liked anime in high school, and it's because he hated the average Hot Topic user and everything they stand for.
I mean, yeah. No, I literally named the tags. We have like a tag for if you get out to get into the voice channel, and I literally named the tag for the Zim watching Invaders of Hot Topic because, like, of course I did.
Yeah, it's a Hot Topic show, 100%.
Right? No, yeah, and it's like, and there were definitely parts of it I thought were funny. Like in the first episode, Div is calling out Zim because the whole, you know, in case you're a monster and haven't heard of this show, the premise is that Zim is there's an imposter among us, and he's incorporating himself with the Earth people. And there's like literally only everyone else on the planet is fucking stupid, and there's one kid is also stupid, but he recognizes him for what he is. And like that they're he actually like treats they're both incompetent losers, and they're terrible at what they do, but they're also like so similar that they recognize each other as being threats, even though like neither of them are threats. And yeah, so he in the first episode he immediately, because he just has his human disguise is like he puts on like fake contacts that look like human eyes, and he puts on a wig. He still has green skin. He still has like his alien clothes and his alien like backpack that and he still looks like an alien. And then Div's like, that's an alien, and everyone's just like, shut up. And I think he like has a skin. He claims that he has a skin condition, and like there's like a fucking racist thing or ableist joke, something like. I thought that was funny in the first episode. But the show just wasn't super funny. It was also like, sometimes it was just kind of gross. Sometimes it was being like a horror thing. And I'm like, well, yeah, that's a little, I don't know. I can see why a kid might find it creepy, I guess. But horror doesn't work for me. And yeah, every episode was really weird and distinct. And I can see why it was definitely something special for the time it came out. I know, it got canceled because it was too fucking expensive. And like, yeah, it looked good visually. Like, there are lots of CG, I guess. But it was used well enough, I think, even if obviously it's like early 2000 CG. Like I would say the show looks good. It's like, it's a very stylistic show, but it's very much like, it's not my style is how I would put it. And like, it is kind of interesting to think about how like, even though it was a very short show, like it got canceled after one season. There is a like what was made of season 2 never like one episode aired on TV. The rest of it was like completed but never aired, and it was only released on DVD. So there's like 5 episodes, mostly 10-minute, 13-minute episodes that were like completed but just never aired on TV because the show got canceled partway through the production of season 2. And it did get a finale movie, which I have also not seen yet, but yeah, and so even though it had like a relatively small amount of like time on TV, it still is this cult show that people like really like, that Nick recognized enough to give a finale movie to send off the show like in 2019, right? Like years later, because it still has this kind of impact, and I recognize like why it kind of had that impact, even if I'm not a big fan of the show. Like, I didn't dislike it, I don't think. And there were parts I thought were funny. Like, I think my favorite joke in the show is there's an episode where, like, Zim he's literally inside Dib's body, and he's trying to take care of him from the inside out, and so, Dib gets, like, another miniature machine to chase him, so they're, like, fighting. And his sister is a fucking gamer. And so Dib's like controlling the ship inside of him, trying to fight Zim and get him out of his body. And Zim eventually like is also partly able to control his body. And Gaz says like, "When you die, can I play?" Which is a very normal gamer thing, but in the context of like Dib might literally die, it caught me off guard, and I bust out laughing, and it was I thought that was funny. And there were some other jokes I liked, but they were definitely maybe every few episodes. And I don't know. It was okay. Not my thing.
What the fuck?
Yeah, from what I watched of Zim, I thought it was okay as well. But it was also one of those things where I feel like I would have had to been really into it back whenever it came out to still like it now. But like even then I did like watch it here and there. It was one of those shows I would throw on when nothing else is on, and I thought it was just okay, which is kind of similar to how I feel now. So I guess it wasn't like ever something that I could ever
I feel
really
like
love.
it's more
but
like
I do feel like it is partly a show people would still like if they were into it back then.
Yeah, I feel like it's a show like if you liked it a lot, like it probably just kind of like geared affected your general tastes, and you would like things that were maybe more like that, right? Like it's just like kind of influential person, like because I do think it's pretty different in regards to like a lot of cartoons that have just aired on TV. Like I'm trying to think of like what can I think of that's kind of similar. Mr. Meaty, I guess. And just like being really dark and like kind of dark and cynical, relatively speaking.
Yeah, but Mr. Meaty's fucking horrifying. That fucking episode about the goddamn tapeworm. Holy shit. imagery from that is burned into my fucking
I need to watch that in full
brain.
because I like Mr. Meaty. But yeah,
Horrifying.
Yeah. I didn't know I was typing into Vindy's darkest fears. But anyway, yeah, that's about all I had to say about the show. Or none, unless you had more.
Not really. Yeah.
Sad. Also, yeah, that about covers it for the episode. It's not 2 hours long. It's almost 2 hours.
My friend
long.
just texted me he's 5 beers deep, so
All right, you can handle that.
I gotta, yeah. Adios, muchachos.
All right, I'll see.
Love
Thank you for
y'all.
listening.
Adios.
Patron us.
Goodbye. Yeah, and you can vote on the show we watch next season. So yeah, goodbye.